The fog rolls in heavy over Huelva, Spain, on the morning of April 30th, 1943. A sardine fisherman named Jose Antonio Rey Maria pulls his boat through the gray Atlantic swell, the same routine he's followed 1,000 mornings before. But today, something else is waiting in the water. A body, face down, bloated from days at sea, dressed in the unmistakable uniform of a British Royal Marines officer. He's not alone in his discovery, and he won't be the last to see this man, because chained to the corpse's wrist is a black leather briefcase. Locked. Official. Important. Spanish authorities are called. Then the local German intelligence network, quietly, efficiently, the way it always works in a country technically neutral but deeply sympathetic to Berlin. Inside that briefcase are documents marked Most Secret. Personal letters between British generals, references to upcoming Allied invasions, real troop movements, real targets, real dates. This man's name, according to his identification, is Major William Martin, Royal Marines. What nobody on that beach knows, what nobody is supposed to know, is that Major William Martin never lived a single day of his life. He is a lie. A meticulously engineered ghost sent across an ocean to die a second time so that a real invasion and tens of thousands of real soldiers might live. This is the story of how a corpse became the most successful spy of the Second World War. Rewind 5 months. London, late 1942. In the smoke-filled rooms of the Casablanca Conference, Churchill and Roosevelt's commanders make a decision that will define the next phase of the war. After North Africa falls to the Allies, the next target must be Sicily, the stepping stone into Italy, the so-called soft underbelly of occupied Europe. There is just one problem. Everyone, including the enemy, can see it coming. Churchill himself puts it bluntly to his commanders. Anybody but a damn fool would know it is Sicily. And that is precisely the danger. If Hitler knows it too, the landing beaches will be slaughterhouses. So British intelligence is given an impossible task. Make Hitler believe the obvious truth is actually a lie. Inside a cramped, windowless office of the 20 Committee, 2 men take on this challenge. Charles Cholmondeley, an RAF officer, and Ewan Montague, a sharp-minded naval intelligence officer. The inspiration comes from an unlikely source, a memo years earlier from a young naval intelligence officer named Ian Fleming, the future creator of James Bond. Idea number 28. Plant false documents on a corpse and let it wash ashore in enemy territory. But first, they need a body. They find him in a London morgue. His name is Glyndwr Michael, a homeless Welshman who died after ingesting rat poison, a desperate, lonely suicide. In death, this forgotten man is about to be given a new identity, a fictional fiancé, and a mission more important than almost any living soldiers. He becomes Major William Martin. But how do you convince Nazi Germany's sharpest spies that a ghost is actually real? To fool the German Abwehr, a single forged letter wouldn't convince them. What will convince them is a life, a complete, breathing, believable human being built entirely out of paper. So, British intelligence begins an obsessive construction. Major Martin needs a past. They invent a fiancée, a fictional woman named Pam, whose photograph is actually borrowed from a real secretary working inside MI5. They write love letters in her voice, aching and intimate, the kind a man would carry next to his chest. They add a receipt from a London jeweler for an engagement ring purchased just weeks before his death. A small, devastating detail suggesting a wedding that would never happen. They add theater ticket stubs from a London show, evidence of one last evening out before deployment. an overdue, irritated letter from his bank manager about an unpaid overdraft, because real men have messy, mundane financial problems. Every object in his pockets is what intelligence officers call pocket litter, the small human debris of an ordinary life. Because if the Abwehr senses even one inconsistency, the entire deception collapses, confirming to Hitler that Sicily is, in fact, the real target. On April 19, 1943, the submarine HMS Seraph slips out of Scotland. Below deck, sealed inside a steel canister packed with dry ice, lies the body of Major William Martin. For 10 days, the Seraph creeps silently toward the Spanish coast. Finally, in the pre-dawn hours of April 30th, the canister is opened. The officers say a quiet prayer over the body of a man none of them ever knew in life. Then they release him into the current, letting the sea deliver him naturally to the Spanish shore. Spanish authorities recover the body and the briefcase exactly as planned. Local officials, sympathetic to Berlin, quietly allow German Abwehr agents access to the documents. Under careful technique, the letters are removed without breaking their official seals, photographed in secret, and resealed. The forged letters speak of an invasion aimed not at Sicily, but at Sardinia and Greece. The deception travels up the chain with terrifying speed, straight onto the desk of Adolf Hitler himself. Hitler looks at the documents. The fate of the entire war hangs on his next move. Will he see through the British trap, or will he swallow the bait? Adolf Hitler believed it completely. He overrules his own intelligence assessments. He overrules Mussolini, who still suspects Sicily. German Panzer divisions are pulled away and repositioned toward Greece and the Balkans. Coastal defenses across Sicily are quietly thinned out. A dead man's fictional love letters have just redirected the armored divisions of the Third Reich. July 10, 1943. Operation Husky begins. Allied troops storm the beaches of Sicily and find an island far less defended than military planners had any right to hope for. The expected slaughter never materializes. Resistance is real, but nowhere near the fortress the Germans could have built had they believed the truth. Within weeks, Sicily falls. The Allies have their foothold into Europe, and it cost a fraction of the lives it might have because the enemy was looking the wrong way at the most critical moment. Operation Mincemeat is, by any measure, one of the most successful deceptions in military history. But the final haunting detail of this story isn't found in the war rooms of London or the desk of Hitler. It's found in the life and the lonely death of one forgotten man. Glendra Michael lived in poverty, estranged from family with no job, no home, and no will left to keep fighting. He died alone in a London building, his death barely noticed by a city consumed by war. He never wore a uniform in life. He never fired a weapon, never marched, never stood among his fellow countrymen in defense of anything. And yet, in death, he became Major William Martin, a man with a fiancée, a fallen ring, a story so human that the most ruthless intelligence apparatus in Europe believed every word of it. A man society had discarded became the single most valuable asset the Allies possessed in the spring of 1943. War is often remembered through its generals, its battles, its grand strategies, but sometimes the most decisive weapon in history isn't a tank, a bomber, or an army. Sometimes it's a story, carefully told, desperately believed. And sometimes the man who changes the course of a war never even knows he fought in it.